it was wrong or I thought it was personal, then I'd get the ump. But if it was deserved, then I'd, hold my hands up and say. And I think, listen, the performance in Naples, I think if they're honest, every single one of their players goes, you know what, it was a bad day at the office and we deserved the criticism we got. But again, I think we reiterated on the night, we wasn't saying they were a bad team overnight. No one was saying they were bad players overnight. It was a bad performance.
OK, well, look, we know what they've done this evening. Let's explain to people at home how they did it, shall we?
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the first goal. A long pass, wasn't it, Rachel? Not a long ball.
Yeah,
exactly. Say a long pass.
Very accurate.
And I think if we look at the long ball from, or long pass from Alisson, we've got a situation whereby two defenders here, Maria will tell you the cardinal sin is to almost cross as defenders, and that's what happens. And all of a sudden, you get Jota just peeling off into a gap here. And then when we pause it, all there is a knock-on effect.
Michael, could I just stop really quickly and ask why is the cardinal sin for defenders to cross like that?
Rio.
It just leads to confusion. I mean, if you take it back here, they're in really good positions in terms of being able to deal with this if they stay like this. If they start this and, say, for instance, the right-back is coming on his side of the pitch and he says, I'm going to go and win it, it's coming on my side of the pitch. Or even if he doesn't, even if he says he's not going to win it, the next guy, centre-half, one of them says, I'm going to win it. When that happens, right, and you say that, then one of you has to be the player that then sweeps here. Get round here and sweep and then provide cover in this area here. Watch what happens. There's zero cover in that area that I've just highlighted once there is confusion. Look, there you go. He gets the other side of him.
Yeah, and what it does is obviously it brings Bassi over from this position. He's got to then cover. Leaves Mo Salah in all this space. And from Mo Salah's point of view, listen, if this was me, I'd be taking a right foot touch here and I'd be shooting with my right foot. Mo Salah's, of course, a left-footed player coming in from the right-hand side. The good thing with this situation, he's got that much room that he can afford to bring it in onto his good foot, which he'll be just absolutely loving. Look at that. He can take a touch infield, which is very, very rare in that situation. So then he's coming in on his left foot and it makes it an easy-ish finish for a man of Mo Salah's quality.
Yeah, I'd be fuming as the goalkeeper, to be fair, with that right back and that right centre-half getting too close together. It leaves Bassi with a massive gap between them, and Daley Blint's not back covering. It just leaves gaps. And, thankfully for Liverpool, they exploited them.
Yeah.
But then coming on to the retribution from Ajax getting back at them, it was a time when Trent Alexander-Arnold switched off. Look at the shape that they're in. Excellent shape. Happy with that. Back four, we've got for Liverpool. In front, solid. No gaps. Exactly what they didn't do against Napoli, in Naples, was to be compact and hard to play through. If we stop it here, Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right-hand side there has got eyes on player here, on Berghaus, on the player there. He knows exactly what he's going to do. He's in a good shape with the back line still, but just lets Berghaus just run as he runs on. He's got to match his run. You can see there's no pressure on the ball from Salah. And so, as we were talking about before the match, Alexander-Arnold has to drop in and match the runner.
And you said there he knows exactly what he's going to do. So why doesn't he run back with the player?
So you're right. We can see what's going to do. It's almost like he doesn't see the picture and doesn't recognise exactly what his role is defensively, or whether he's passing on that defensive role. I think I said before the game about his thought process were not sharp from a defensive point of view. And that was clear to see tonight as well.
I just want to ask both of you a question on that. My only theory, to answer your question, Jake, if we just take it back, do you think that Trent actually thinks he's blocking that pass and that he doesn't need to run, that there's no space to pass it? Maybe. I'm just trying to think why...
That's a gamble, though. That's the only thing is...
I mean, but a lot of the time, if you're in the right position, you think, well, the only one that's going to get me is over my head. Yeah. I'm actually blocking the channel here. Do you think he's actually thinking, well, there's no way they can pass it alongside? He's got to be thinking something.
Do you know what? The only thing I would say in protection of Trent here, right, if I'm playing here, I'm Trent's eyes and ears there. That's me there in that position. And I'm saying to Trent, anything to feet, you go and get it. And basically stay in that position. I don't mind you staying there because my thing will always, and it comes down to communication between the two players before the game. This area here, behind the fullback, was my area. I say to my right back, you go to the ball, go to the player, and if the ball goes over your head, that is me. And if I'm not there, you can shout at me, and it's my fault. But are they having those conversations? Is that communication being had before or during the game to really say to? Because after this whole this finishes, I don't see Trent saying to Matip, "Where was you?" So maybe that conversation hasn't been had.
Can I just ask one other quick question? Once you get into this position here, and let's caveat this with the fact we know he's a phenomenally talented player, and in an attacking Trent, and in an attacking capacity, we'll have a look later at just how great he was for Liverpool going forwards. But in this position here, and a few other times this evening, what is the reason for the recovery run not being at the rate of the other players? How do we square that away?
Yeah.
Look at this here.
You're right, the intensity, I'm sure I've seen the start, it was last season, he's the fastest player at Liverpool. And he's not showing that intent, that desire, that kind of... It's so much to get the green light to go forward and he's off, head down as fast as he can do. From a defensive point of view, it just doesn't seem to register with him as quickly as it should do. I can't imagine it's out of desire to do it. I just think that there's not quite that mental sharpness to do that same, to have that same role. But we were talking as well, all right, what is the makeup of a right back to Jurgen Klopp? Does he want him doing exactly those things, or is he measured more on his attacking prowess? Because we talked again, and he's been well documented tonight. Some of the great things that he can do. He great strike from 25 yards out, just whistled over the bar. His attacking, I don't think anyone doubts his attacking capabilities. I just think he would be better all round and more useful to the team if he could sharpen up on those decision-making, because he's got the athleticism to do it. I think he's got the knowledge. He's a clever guy, but it's just having the application in key moments.
Okay. I mean, we can take it on to the winner, which we all felt was coming at times. But in this situation, from set pieces, I think aerial duels tonight, they won 73% of aerial duels, Liverpool. And in the box, they were so dominant. We were just sitting there going, but they haven't really hit the target for many of these set pieces yet. And Mo shouted earlier in the game, Matip will score tonight. And he came up with the winner. It was a great header in the end. Bassi doesn't do enough, I don't think, initially with the first challenge. And they didn't really have any chance of winning the first contact in the box at any point of this game. And they got punished.
Bassi was the person. Actually, when you look at it, we just cue it again, Rio. When you look at the players, it's actually that they're all marking here. This is Fabinho's here with Blind, and then apart from that, you've basically got everybody paired up. And it's Bassi that, if you just watch it slowly, Bassi's actually keeping his eye on Matip. And eventually, he's just looking through the bodies. Eventually, he's the closest one to him. So it was his man, and he just, as Rio says, just simply doesn't do enough. He lets him get a run on him, and you can't do that when you're as tall as Matip and you let someone get a run on you. You're dead meat.
And balls in from corners were excellent, both from Tsimikas on that left-hand side, outswingers, and Trent Alexander-Arnold from the other side. There were at least 4 chances, almost 3 headers from centre-halves, Van Dijk and Matip.
Big
and
moment.
He made one count.
Gave him the win. It remains to be seen just what a vital win that may well be in the context of this season. But it's certainly a crucial one in the context of the Champions League. If they'd have lost tonight...
You look at the start of this season, again, lots of injuries, lots of training ground injuries. It's very difficult to get that balance right when you're not playing twice. If you're playing twice a week, it's very easy. You have your recovery days, you have your little sharp fizz again, and basically you're preparing for the next game. It's recovery, hardly anything, recovery, play. You can't really get injured on the training ground. Whereas in the lead up to where we are today, they've had a very stop-start season. Of course, lots of things have been going on, but it's one game a week in general, and there's been lots of problems with injuries. So I think when Liverpool get deep into the season, they're playing twice a week, that's when they come into their own. But today was certainly about the result. And I think the one word that you described tonight is relief. Liverpool got the 3 points, another step closer to being back to where they belong. They didn't play great today, but they were decent enough.
Thiago, big positive.
Absolutely. This team tonight needed to go out with a bit between their teeth, and they were led by him, ultimately, playing in that holding midfield role. And Jurgen Klopp said in his interview about being a yard closer to players compared to the game against Napoli, about having that intensity increased, and that's exactly what he does. He's always on the ball, available to receive the ball. He's very simple in what he does, but his positioning is excellent all around the pitch. Just ready, anticipating. You could see he takes a little step then to ensure that he can push off and power into the challenge there, having that physicality, something again that they missed in the game against Napoli and something they needed to have from the outset. He's got great feet as well, hasn't he? Does provide, an option for them. But he's that link between defence and the forward play. As technically excellent he is, I think everyone tonight can see exactly what they lack when he's not on the pitch.
I think he came on in against Napoli and he was the only one who got any sort of positive praise, not praise, but positive words from the manager in terms of his intensity, stepping onto the game and stepping onto opponents. And he took that into the game today. And I think that when the way Jurgen Klopp's team, we spoke about it, the way they play and when they're at their best is when they are against people, when they are in people's faces, and then when they win it in transition, play the ball forward. And he epitomised all of that today. And
Jurgen's quite right when he says to Des there, he says, look, it's never as bad as people think, it's never as good as people think. So it wasn't a total disaster after not all perfect at Liverpool now. And actually, if you look at the fixtures that they've got coming up, I mean, they've got plenty of Champions League matches once October arrives, including Chelsea in the league, Brighton in the league, who are in great form. They've got Arsenal, they've got Manchester City, they've got some really big games coming up. So actually, October, November is going to tell us plenty about what this Liverpool team are going to bring this season, I think.
Yeah, and nothing's lost yet. I mean, Liverpool have had an average start to the season, but they're not out of any competition. In Champions League now, after tonight's win, they're in a decent enough position again. In the league, it's a you don't want to be giving Manchester City and the likes a head start, but nothing's over yet. So, yes, it's been a poor start, but nothing that they can't recover. And I expect them to find their form. Listen, they don't turn into a bad team overnight. We've watched them for years and years and eulogised over them, how good they are. They will be back. It's just a question of they need to get back before teams get away from them in the league.
And it's about building confidence. Tonight is starting that process of building the confidence back. They haven't played particularly well this season or consistently, but they've got a result when they needed it. And that's important. Character, personality, which we asked for at the beginning.